Check, check, check. There it is. Check, check, check. 1, 2, 3. Checking. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Check, check, check. Check, check, check. Do you want to log in? And do you want to log in? 0 viewers. You can be the only one. Uh, Tell them if they walk up on stage, they're now live. We're broadcasting.
It's like a 5-second delay, but I expected that. So.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you?
Well, not now, because I've gotten off.
Okay, who gets the first mic? Great. I'm last. Okay.
I think I'm after a bunch of you guys, though. Go ahead, don't worry about it. 'Cause I'm gonna be last.
Hello. Hi. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for coming to Bootcamp. My name's Madeline. I'm an industry programmer here at Hot Docs, and I'll just go through the itinerary for today. So we're going to do a bit of a industry 101 spiel, and we're going to talk about all the great things that we do at Hot Docs on the industry side, at the festival, and a little bit year round. And then we're going to have Liz Marshall, who's a filmmaker here in Toronto, join us, and she's going to talk about her experience of pitching at the forum and being programmed at the festival. And she's a vet, so she can kind of tell you the lay of the land as well, in some ways better than we can because she's deep in it as a filmmaker. And then we're going to have tea and cake. It's going to be really lovely. So as I mentioned, my name's Madeline Rousseau. I am an industry programmer here, and I run the Dealmaker program. I run some of the close-up sessions. I do some workshops year-round, as we all do. And I have my hands in a bit of everything, but so do we all.
My name's Olena DeCock, and I'm an industry programmer for our conference, which we're going to talk about extensively later in this presentation. But I also have my hands in our funds portfolio, which Heidi will talk about later as well. But like Madeline said, we all kind of have our hands in different things, including we teach workshops across the country for Doc Ignite.
Hi, everyone. My name is Heidi Tao Yang, and I'm the industry funds manager at Hot Docs. And it's great to see you guys here. I will talk more about funds later.
Hi, my name is Aisha. I'm one of the Canadian programmers at the festival, and I'm going to give you some tips on how to navigate the festival.
Just moonlighting on industry today. Hi, I'm Elizabeth Ratch. I'm the director of industry programs, and thank you all so much for coming out on a melting Monday. Okay.
So to start, we're going to show you a trailer of all that we do because visuals probably speak better to most of us than other forms of media. And then we'll talk a little bit about the festival, a little bit about the programs, and yeah, here is industry.
Why are you the right person to tell this story? And I would say that for anyone. And you better have a really good answer.
She's one of the most fearless filmmakers, I think, working today, and she's also the perfect person to make this film.
They broke a story so big, it changed their country.
Being here is a wish come true, of course, because every producer has this secret dream of pitching a project at Hot Docs.
It's so amazing for us to be here as the first Kenyan team pitching at Hot Docs.
I think Hot Docs is an amazing marketplace because the forum is kind of second to none. I think the standard of projects that are coming here are incredible from filmmakers from all over the world.
It's been absolutely unbelievable. It's amazing to have a worldwide audience, really, of the broadcasters from around the world. And it's really awesome to hear the other pitches and to see that there's this language of documentary that crosses all these international boundaries.
So we'd love to talk to you about bringing it to public media and making it accessible to everyone in our country.
The key is the setting. Conviviality. Conviviality is really key in making sure people communicate.
Thank you, everybody. What a response. This was fantastic.
Absolutely love Hot Docs. Hot Docs is hot.
Yes, I'm really worried about my budget now. I think I've spent most of it at the Hot Docs.
So we're going to dissect what all those elements were in the trailer for you shortly, but I want to talk a little bit about the festival and the program. And so we screened this year over 250 films. A quarter of those are Canadian, which means that your chances are better than most if you're a Canadian filmmaker. We also have given away over $305,000. Is that what I'm saying? $305,000 in prizes at the festival and on the market side just last year at the festival alone. And we also try to get all of the directors that are programmed in the festival to the festival. international and Canadian filmmakers. So we have massive audiences at Hot Docs. This year we had over 223,000 attendees for a city of, 2.7 million people. Those are incredible numbers, and I'm sure a lot of you attend the festival as at least an audience member, and you've seen those lineups around the block. And it's really amazing, and we have really great community partnerships. And we've seen 162% audience growth over the last 10 years, which is really incredible. If you're wondering who is watching films at Hot Docs or who is watching your film at Hot Docs, they're usually probably a woman who is smarter than you. So we have very highly educated audiences, mostly female. And in terms of age and in terms of income, the audience is widely range, which is interesting because at a lot of other documentary festivals, they can skew pretty to a pretty older crowd, but we get the young ones, we get everyone. So how many of you have attended Hot Docs as an audience member? Great, many of you. How many have had a film in the festival before? Yes.
Nice.
And how many of you have attended as an industry delegate at any level, a conference pass, conference and networking, all access? Great, okay. So this year is our 26th year of the festival. We're going to talk a little bit about what the industry landscape looks like at Hot Docs. But this year we had over 2,000 doc professionals attend, and that includes 300 decision makers, buyers who attend the festival to meet filmmakers who are making films, who are distributing their films. So a little bit about the pass levels. As of yet, nothing has sold out. But for filmmakers who we have a couple of suggested entryways into Hot Docs if you're very emerging. One of them is the Kickstart Pass, in which you can attend one day of the conference. I believe it's the Wednesday, and that is curated towards emerging first-time filmmakers. So Elena puts together that program specifically targeted towards you, and that's $99. So it's a pretty manageable sum, hopefully. We also very much recommend, if you're coming to the festival and you want to connect with people and meet your peers, we recommend a conference and networking pass because it allows you into the happy hours, into the parties, into all of the different social events, into the tent, into the conference. You're able to meet your peers, meet future collaborators, kind of connect with people who are on your level or people who you aspire to be like as a filmmaker. So we recommend also that as being a very handy kind of entry point. A little bit about our deadlines. So Dealmaker, which is the one-on-one meetings, are open right now and they close on February 14th. Distribution Rendezvous is the same. It's open now and it closes March 14th. And I'll talk a little bit about the difference between those two programs, but they are application based programs. So you do have to apply. Though for Rendezvous, you don't have to go through a selection process. Once you apply, you are in if a buyer wants to meet with you. And there are a number of things that you have to register in advance, but there are a number of things you do not have to register in advance. So the doc workshops during the conference, there's usually one programmed per day during the conference. Those you don't have to register for anymore. You used to have to, but now you can just come on in. And for the close-up sessions, you sign up, but you sign up the morning of the session. So if you're attending the forum and you have an all-access pass and you're going to Heart House, you can attend the close-ups. And those you register for a day of at like 8:30 in the morning. So forum is closed, but there's still a lot of opportunities open to you still. So Distribution Rendezvous is one of our meeting programs, and it's a program specifically for filmmakers who have a film that is complete or at the rough cut stage, and they're looking to meet distributors and sales agents. As I said, it closes on March 14th. We're looking for projects that they can be feature length, TV hours, series. What else else do we have up there? Interactive work and cross-platform work. And these are 20-minute pre-arranged meetings. So you apply, you then decide who you would like to meet with. There's usually, I would say, about 65 different distributors and sales agents that you have the chance of meeting with. And then the buyers look at all the projects and they decide who they would like to meet with. And if you both match, if you both want to meet each other, then we'll set up a meeting for you in Rendezvous. And Rendezvous meetings will take place on the Monday of the industry week, which is the 29th of April. And just some things to consider when you have applied, you've gotten in, you are going to take meetings. Think about who you're meeting with and why you want to meet with someone, and does your film fit with the catalog that they have? Usually you can see what other sales agents and distributors, what other work they distribute, and you can see if you have alignment in style, in form, in interest. You can check references of distributors and sales agents, so it's not uncommon to connect with someone who is already a client of theirs to see if they're happy with the work of the distributor that they're working with. So just some things to consider when you do go through this system, because once you're matched, the onus is kind of on you to prepare for the meeting, know why you're meeting with someone, and know what they do and what kind of films they distribute. The Jock shop. Liz, you're talking about the Jock shop.
So how many of you have films that are complete that you would like to launch out into the world? Don't be shy. Okay, I've got a few in the front. Anyway, the Doc Shop serves two fantastic purposes for those who have films that are complete and want to find exhibition with a distributor or with a broadcaster. But the other thing that the Doc Shop does is that it offers an incredible library of viewing films. So what it is a online platform that's hosted at our festival and year-round available to buyers. And if you're applying for your film in the festival and you've opted into the Doc Shop, you can be rolled over to be a part of this kind of online library that broadcasters, distributors, and other exhibitors will come and could view your film and then contact you to purchase it or to license it. But if you're attending the festival and you do not have, you can't be in every place at once to go see screenings during the day and in the evening and be at conference sessions and go to networking events and take meetings, you can go into the Doc Shop and watch films with your pass that are playing in the festival and that are also not there. And it's a really interesting way to grow your media literacy. And we have a lot of people that we just recommend take a day during the festival, go to the Doc Shop, bring your lunch, and just watch films. And of course, try to catch some in cinema, but it's a way that you can watch quite a few in a row. So it's a little insider tip about the Doc Shop.
And you as well.
Too, great. The Hot Docs online community. So when you sign up and you're accredited to attend the festival, how are you going to find out who else is coming until you roll in? Well, we've got the Hot Docs online community. So this is just our, like you've been to many conferences before, a listing of contact information and information of the companies and organizations that are in attendance. And this is where you do your pre-festival homework. Everyone, if it's your first time coming with a conference pass or a conference networking pass, you should dedicate some time a couple weeks before the festival and spend some hours on the online community to see who's coming, see who you want to have meetings with, reach out to them, see what other friends are attending so you can hook up and go to films together. But this is how you essentially do your R&D before showing up. So it's an important community and you'll be a part of it. And you have access for it year round. It doesn't like go bad after the festival. That's how if you didn't get someone's business card, you remembered, oh my gosh, that fabulous person from TVO, how am I going to find them? Log back into the online community. Or if you see someone on a panel in session and you think they're a great speaker and you want to be in touch with them, or you can maybe collaborate with them, you'll find their contact info there. We're talking about the forum. So the Hot Docs Forum, and just a quick shout out to our colleagues who are not here today, Director Leck, who's the Hot Docs producer, Stephanie MacArthur, who's the industry programs manager, and Julian Carrington, who's our distribution manager. Steph and Julian are available late in Whitehorse, and they're teaching a workshop in Vancouver and then in Kamloops, and Dorota's in Berlin and scouting projects for the forum, which is selection is happening any day now. So the Hot Docs Forum is sort of the center point of the industry market that happens at Hot Docs. It is our 20th anniversary, and who here has heard of the forum or kind of has an idea what it is? Okay, so it's got a little reputation. We like to call it the greatest show in documentary because essentially it's an incredible pitch program. So go with me here. It's the Shark's Tank of international film finance. It's in a room that looks like Hogwarts, the Great Hall, at Hart House. And it's 7 minutes of pitching and 7 minutes of guided feedback. And the film teams that are selected present their work, they pitch it, they show a trailer, and then we listen to responses from broadcasters, from funders, and from different decision makers from around the world. And that's some of the clips that you saw at the beginning of that industry trailer. So what's so special about spending 2 days watching 20 projects pitch? It is some of the greatest education in film funding, in storytelling, in pitching a story for financing, and for understanding what are the tastes of the market. You may have a really cool film. It could be very beautiful passion project that you're making, but it may be falling flat on the interests of different broadcasters or funders, and you'd be able to discover that by going to observe the forum. It is a limited seating capacity event, which means tickets do sell out, and it's about 350 tickets, and that's it. So if this is an investment for your career and for the work that you want to do, especially if you're an early, emerging filmmaker, but it can be one that's really transformational. So because who else is observing these pitches? We've got programmers from around the world, sales agents, funders, equity funds, different broadcasters from everywhere. So the energy of that space for 2 days is incredibly powerful to be around, not just in observing the pitches and learning from them, but talking about it after in the breaks and the sessions and the lunches. What else does it say up here? So we had over 350 projects submit, and we select 19, and then there's a Mounties hat, which is like a wild card. You throw your business card in, and if you're selected, you get to pitch the next day. So it's highly competitive, and projects have to be with some key funding already established. But it's pretty amazing. We also have a program called First Look. So we give away about $125,000 in prizes to the top 3 projects that pitch at the forum. So there's real cash that moves on the table. So it's a fairly exciting event. The forum in a nutshell.
And we also have a $10,000 prize for the best Canadian project at the forum as well.
Good plug. Don't forget that.
So Dealmaker, as I mentioned, is a one-on-one meeting program. So the films that are selected for the forum, of which there are 20, will also take Dealmaker meetings, but then we select an additional 35 to 40 projects that just do Dealmaker meetings. And Dealmaker is an opportunity for filmmakers that have a film that's either in development or production, sometimes in post-production, to meet with buyers who are looking, broadcasters who are looking for to fill slots on their channels, or they're also meeting with film funders. Sometimes broadcasters are coming in really early with a commission or co-production. Sometimes they're coming in later with an acquisition. What we're looking for in Dealmaker is really compelling projects that have great storytelling, but are also commercially appealing. So of the 65 different buyers that you could potentially meet with, we want to know that at least a fraction of them would find your project appealing enough for their channel to take a meeting with you, or to take a meeting with you for the sake of relationship building, or for the sake of discussing a future commission or acquisition. The meetings are 20 minutes long, in which you have time to pitch and then gain feedback from the buyer that you're meeting with, maybe show a trailer. The way in which we choose projects is we consider forum projects for Dealmaker as well, and sometimes we will invite key projects to pitch in Dealmaker. But there is an application process for Dealmaker. It requires having an all access pass first in order to apply. And then there's a selection committee, an internal, so a hot doc selection committee, and then an external selection committee of international broadcasters, producers, consultants, distributors who help us select out of the top 250 applications that we get. We select about 35 to 40. And then those projects have an opportunity. They go into a portal through the online community. They have the opportunity to review the remits of all the broadcasters and film funds that they could potentially meet with. They choose their meetings, and then the broadcasters, the buyers do the same. They decide who they want to meet with, and then if you match, then we arrange meetings with you in the Dealmaker program. And Dealmaker happens in the afternoon of each day of the forum. The forum is in the morning, Dealmaker's in the afternoon, and then for 2 days, and then there's a day of meetings on the third day of Dealmaker as well. And we're also looking for projects, as I said, with Rendezvous as well, and the same for the forum. So they can be 1 hour feature series and cross-platform work. Some tips for applying to forum and to Dealmaker, but also tips for applying to any kind of funding stream with us or anyone else. Because we read a lot of applications and we know sometimes what we see that we like that's really good, but we also see what is lacking. Tell us in the treatment clearly what we're going to see on screen for 90 minutes. Sometimes it's hard to focus on what the story is when you're really excited about what the characters are doing or how you found people, or but we are interested in like what the narrative arc of the story is. Can you articulate the universal appeal of your project? So even something that is really personal to you, it's a story about your mom. Are there tenets within that project where you can say, yes, but it's appealing because it's about love and family? And so pull those, it's the awareness of being able to pull that out for us shows that you are thinking with a mind towards pitching to a broadcaster who's looking for that as well. And also differentiate how your story is unique from what are probably very many other stories similar to yours. Not exactly the same, but similar. So, and I would say that probably in the program, they see a lot of films that are on a certain subject matter. They might all be slightly different, but like what stands out about your project? And do you know what stands out about your project? And be aware of what broadcasters and film funds are looking for. Do your research prior to going into a meeting, and if a broadcaster has maybe 2 to 3 different strands, you should know which strand you would be appropriate for, so that you can kind of zero into a conversation about targeting that strand, rather than sitting there and asking, oh, well, what do you do? And what does your channel do? Go in with the preparation needed. And that information is possible to find on the online community. You can find it in the Guide to Decision Makers, which is the benefit of buying an all access pass. This is every broadcaster, funder, distributor, sales agent who comes to the festival, and a profile on each of them and what they're looking for. Close-ups. So close-ups are an opportunity to, if you don't have a meeting in Dealmaker, if you're not in the forum, to still get up close and personal with broadcasters and film funds to learn a little bit about what they do. So they're 30-minute info sessions where a broadcaster will go through their broadcast remit, their slate for the year, what they're looking for, what they're not looking for, examples of things that they're broadcasting on their platform. So it's a good example of being able to get close to a broadcaster, get a face to a name, maybe introduce yourself at the end, get a rundown of everything that they do. It's not an opportunity to pitch because you're in the room with, it's an intimate room, but you're still in a room with 20 to 25 other producers who are looking to get the basics. But it is kind of a good first foot in the door. And those meetings happen, or that event happens after the forum on each day of the forum in the afternoons. And how to make the most of your meeting. So as I had kind of mentioned, make sure you go in prepared, research the buyers that you are interested in, and be open-minded about people who may not be the right fit initially, but who might want to meet with you, and be open to why they would want to meet with you and see what they have to say. Think ahead. So instead of, you might not get like a acquisition or a commission straight out of a meeting. It rarely happens at the table, but you'll have follow-up meetings and your relationship building with that person, and maybe some point down the line when the project is at the right stage for them, you can follow up with them and they can come back to you. I mean, it might be like 3 or 4 projects down the road that they're interested in you again, but this is all for the sake of relationship building, and there is market validation in having your project pitch at a forum like Hot Docs, and you will be, if you're in the forum or in Dealmaker, you will be tracked from then on from all the people that are in the room. Oh, and network. Conference.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about the Hot Docs conference, which runs Monday to Friday of the festival. Actually, all of our programming runs Monday to Friday of the festival. This year's dates, I should say rather, Monday, April 29th to Friday, May 3rd. So the conference generally runs between the hours of 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. at Victoria College. So the building right behind Isabel Bader Theater. If you go to the second level, there is this like beautiful old chapel that we convert into a conference space to gather. And it's for doc professionals of all levels. So whether you are just emerging, you're thinking about making a short film, or whether you are very seasoned, we've got something for you. If you are a filmmaker, the conference has a lot of inspirational sessions as well as practical sessions, but they're for, as I said, not just for every skill level, but also for every stage of your project. So we have sessions from how to fund your film all the way to thinking about festival strategy and self-distribution. Some past topics that we've had that are quite inspirational, we did a session last year on empathy in VR. We've done the art of the interview with Maya Gallus, Canadian filmmaker extraordinaire. Last year we had a masterclass with Oscar-winning filmmaker Morgan Neville, whose film Won't You Be My Neighbor kind of skyrocketed box offices last year, as well with his, he did that in conversation with his longtime collaborator. And as you also saw at the beginning of this trailer, last year our keynote was a talk, an inspirational talk by Jesse Wente, head of the Indigenous Screen Office on Indigenous sovereignty. So that's just like a little bit taste of kind of the more creative side of the conference, but then there's also the business side of docs, which we get into extensively. It highlights programmers, broadcasters, film funders from all over the world who are kind of making changes in the industry. So some past topics have included strategic partnerships and international co-productions. Last year, our Doc Summit was on Canadian export funding. And then there's also sessions on, for example, tips and tricks on how to pitch. So how do you access the conference? You access it through a pass. It's not open to the public. So you need to have either a conference and networking pass or an all access pass. You can also access it through a Kickstart pass, but the Kickstart pass is only valid on the Wednesday of the conference, which this year is Wednesday, May 30th. And that is sessions that are explicitly for emerging filmmakers. So last year, for example, we did a session on my first doc. So just kind of how do you how these filmmakers with films in the festival got their films started off the ground. I already mentioned where it takes place, the second floor of Victoria College, or Northrop Frye. So Northrop Frye is the building behind Victoria College, and that's where we will have our workshops, which are more hands-on sessions. There is a workshop every single day of the conference, so Monday to Friday, sometimes two, and they are more intimate. They're only up to 30 people. I do recommend that you get there early because it's first come, first serve, and last year there was great need and desire for the workshops. And we've had sessions, for example, contract surgery. So two lawyers take you through a contract and explain to you the language from both an American and a Canadian perspective, to sessions such as we have visual research and how to work with a visual researcher and why they're important to your project. When do you get to know what's going to be at the conference this year? Great question. End of March. So usually there's a programming announcement where the programmers announce the highlights of the festival. And about a week after that, our website will be populated with all the sessions. And that's a great time to go online, figure out, where you are with your project, what kind of help you need with, look up the conference speakers, look up and start like sketching out a schedule. It's first come, first serve, but I will say that at all the events that take place in the chapel, because it seats about 100, you have good chances of getting in if you arrive even like a few minutes late. So highly recommend, even if you're just kind of like in between screenings, swing by, check out some speakers. Who knows, maybe you'll meet someone on stage who is a potential collaborator. Maybe the person sitting beside you is a potential collaborator. You never know. It happens at hot dogs. This is Heidi.
Oh, okay. Hi, everyone. So who here in the room is making a doc and needs money? Okay, well, I'm here to tell you that we're open for business. So we have, and does anyone know that we give out money for films? I see some nods in there. Well, you should all know, and you will know by the time you leave today. So we have 3 major funds. One is called the Hot Dogs Ted Rogers Fund, which is a Canadian fund. We have the Hot Dogs Blue Ice, hold on, this is a really long title. Hot Dogs Blue Ice Group Documentary Fund, which is a fund for African filmmakers who live and work on the continent, and our Crosscurrents Doc Fund. So let me tell you about how all that works. Our Canadian fund, the Hot Dogs Ted Rogers Fund, we're looking for Canadian projects, and we fund up to 20%, sorry, not 20%, we fund up to $20,000 of your project, and we need to see a market partner. So what does that mean, a market partner? Typically, that means that you need to have a broadcaster signed up, or maybe a distributor as well. And what kind of films are we looking for? We're really, really open. Films that really speak to us, that make us lean in, that have a really strong story and characters, and us knowing that you know how to tell that story, you know how to get it there, and the producers can deliver on it. So this opens twice a year, once in the springtime and once in the fall. Now, we haven't announced what those dates are yet, but sign up for a newsletter and you'll know. The Hot Dogs Blue Ice Group Documentary Fund, this is our African fund. I'm going to tell you a little bit about it, even though none of you qualify for it, just to give you an idea of what we do with it. So we fund projects in development, as in production, as well as production, and then we invite 3 to 5 fellows to come to Hot Docs. There's actually a big mentorship component to this, where one, we invite them to Hot Docs and we run a lab where we workshop their projects. There's some tears sometimes, but it's all like very good. And we introduce them to the market, we introduce them to the key players in the field, and just make sure that their projects are being seen out there and having conversations. Then we also take them to another lab in Africa, and previously we've taken them to Durban Film Festival, where after they've workshopped, we give them some homework to do, and then they go out there and pitch it again. And then the third part of the mentorship component is we're just there with them year round, where they're doing Skype calls, where they're looking at their treatments, their work in progress cuts. So they're part of the Hot Dogs Funds family, and this is part of what we do, not just with the this particular fund, but with all of our funds. We're here for our fellows. So the Crosscurrents Doc Fund, this is a really fun one. It's for international films as well as Canadian films. So let me break it down for you. Our international stream, we're looking for short projects or feature-length projects. And we're looking for stories told from within underrepresented communities. Well, what does that mean, underrepresented communities? We're not here to tell you that. We want you to tell us what that means. And it can be about anything at all. And we're looking for very similar things as with all the projects that we're looking for in any of our programs is great storytelling, great access, and can you actually deliver it to us? So this opens once a year and it will likely be in the summertime, but again, we'll announce it sometime in the spring. Now, we also have a Canadian part to the Crosscurrents Fund. So we're looking for Canadian projects. We're looking for emerging filmmakers that come from groups that identify as Francophone, Indigenous, deaf, with disability, or filmmakers of color. So if you identify as any of those groups, you can apply to this fund. We're looking for projects that are short, that are feature length, in development, or in production. So it can also be about anything at all. And for that, we're looking to give between $10,000 to $50,000. And I should also say that the Crosscurrents Canada Fund is part of this initiative that we have called the Canadian Storytellers Project. I don't know if you want to talk about the Canadian Storytellers Project?
I'll quickly plug it now.
Yeah.
Sure. So we have a program called the Hot Docs Canadian Storytellers Project. It's generously underwritten by Netflix, and there's 3 components to it. One is the Crosscurrents Canadian Fund that Heidi's been describing. The second are Doc Ignite Labs, which we'll probably talk about at one point, that where my colleagues are right now in Whitehorse and Vancouver and Kamloops, teaching workshops across the country. And the third part is the Doc Accelerator program, which we'll hear about later. But they all fall under this umbrella of programming that's really there to support and enrich young Canadian storytellers from across the country with Hot Docs.
And just a little bit more, following up on what Madeline said, some tips for applying, which is read what we're actually looking for. Look at some of the criterias, and just make sure that you're applying to the right stream, to the right fund. Because often we get questions like, oh, here is a 30-page treatment, and here's my rough cut. What do you think? So those are the type of context that's really hard for us to figure out. What would be the easiest is if you read through the website and then give us a call, and then we're happy to jump on the phone and have a chat. And lots of other great application tips coming up.
Oh, okay. So Hot Docs has really been making great efforts to put money into the pockets of filmmakers, and one of them has been cultivating philanthropic supporters of documentaries. So after 25 years of hosting this festival, we've had a lot of audience members who love docs. They love them so much that they want to give doc filmmakers money, and we help to make that happen. So our first look prize that I talked about at the forum, that $125,000, that comes from a group of philanthropic supporters of film. They just love film so much. They want to see this art form accelerate. And so they're there choosing their favorite pitches, and that's where that prize money goes to. Over the past few years, they have really sophisticated this group into a small group of holdings for equity funding. So the Hot Docs Partners is a $2.5 million equity fund. And how many people know what equity investment means? It's okay. Because it's not an easy or traditional thing that happens in the Canadian funding structure. This is sort of like funding 505 rather than 101, and that's fine. But what it is essentially funds that come in to your film as you are raising financing from private investors, and they get paid back as the film recoups money from its different licenses or sales. So hopefully, fingers crossed, you're making films that are going to make money, right? That are going to be sold out to broadcasters or platforms, because that's why you're doing this, right? As much to make beautiful stories, but this is part of your métier, right? It's your business. So the Hot Docs Partners is a fund that helps to facilitate that. We just launched in May. We've been starting our investments. It's really for projects that are larger budget, commercially viable, impactful, incredible access to storytelling, art of, documentary in all of its scales. And as Heidi describes, films that really make you lean in and films that are going to recoup, that are going to sell. So if this is something where you're like, oh, I think I'm interested in equity, maybe if it's your first film, not quite yet, but we're not going to not look at projects that have the potential for this type of investment. So that's why we're here to talk to you about the films that you're making and see where you can fit within our programs.
The Jock Accelerator. Has anyone heard about this program before? Right, that's awesome. So Doc Accelerator is one of the components of the Canadian Storytellers project that's underwritten by Netflix. So this is a emerging filmmaker lab, and it's pretty awesome. So we invite between up to 12, I think. Yes, up to 12 participants, emerging filmmakers to this program. And we accredit them. For those outside of Toronto, we bring them up here, put them in a hotel, and then we sit down for 3 days and we just talk about documentary. We talk about pitching, we talk about funding, we talk about business affairs, workshop ideas and projects. Get guest speakers come in. In the past, we've had Nanfu Wang come in, who just did One Child Nation that won at Sundance. We have guest speakers like that and come in and talk about their process creatively and businessly, if that's a word. And it's it's pretty great. And Liz Marshall actually facilitates that program. Hello, Liz. Hi. And she can tell you how awesome that is because, I mean, you're in a room and you are fully engaged in documentary thinking. What else comes with it is that we provide you with an itinerary for the week. We recommend things for you to see, programs that Elena does at the conference. We do check-ins all the time. And another great benefit for this lab is that you get to be part of an internship program, which is 200 hours paid. And that's throughout the calendar year. And that's in the city that you are currently living and working in. So that's pretty awesome, I'd say. Now, if you want to apply, you can apply next year because applications have already closed for this year, but it's something really great to keep in mind for emerging filmmakers.
And I should just quickly say about the paid work placement, whereas Heidi got we match you with a production company that you want to work with in your city, and they have to be in production on a documentary. So it's a fairly unique work experience placement that it's not like we just throw you anywhere. You give us your top choices, we match you with that company, we make sure that they're working on a film that you get to work on, and we pay you, which is great. Okay.
Okay, so you just heard about all our amazing programs, all our amazing funds, and you're like, oh my goodness, how can you do more? There's more. Their Hot Docs industry has amazing online resources, and on top of that, they're free. So what are you doing right now? Pull out your phone. Not kidding. No, actually, don't pull out your phone. But we have, first of all, we have a blog, Hot Docs Jots. It's insights into what's happening with Hot Docs alumni, past pitch projects, notes from our travels, director's notebook, and so much more. Madeline curates the Hot Docs Jots, and it's a great discussion on. I'm just beefing you up. It's the discussion on the industry landscape. There's always postings, just, have a quick peek. Also, we have Hot Docs publications. So these are, again, they're free. They're Canadian focused, so they're meant for you. And they're on all different types of topics that we cover either at the conference or that we cover in our labs. So these are things like pitching tools, co-production guides, a distribution guide. There's a new budgeting tool on there. It's downloadable, print it off, read it on the subway, highly recommend it. Again, free. And then finally, there's Knowledge Chapter. So all of the 2016, 2015, 2017, I believe 2018 is already up there, sessions from the festival are online. They're better than cat videos. They're on our Vimeo channel. It's very easy to find. You just Google Hot Docs Industry Vimeo. It's right there. And there's some, I believe a couple pitches from older forums as well. And there's some really, really useful ones on there. So the one that I often send around is how to perfect your elevator pitch. This is the perfect, if you're thinking about buying a CNN pass, if you're thinking about buying an all access pass, go home and watch this right now. It's an hour out of your day, but it's the perfect, it's this wonderful producer named Angela Tucker, based out of the States. And she just kind of walks you through how to pitch at cocktails, how to pitch like when you meet someone on the street. Like these are the kinds of, how to make yourself memorable, but then also not be too abrasive either. And it's the perfect dynamic. And she even just does like a little bit of workshopping with people on stage as well. So you got 11 weeks to practice. Go and watch Angela Tucker and then pitch at the cocktails at Hot Docs. I think that's it for me. Yeah. Places to meet people. Okay, so you've practiced your elevator pitch. Where do you meet people? There's a number of places. So a lot of our unofficial hangouts are at Victoria College, which is, as I mentioned, the building right behind the Isabel Bader Theater. There's a delegates lounge, so you can also use that space to take meetings. Behind Victoria College is a large white tent. That's another great space to take meetings, grab coffee, just like run into people, that kind of thing. Make yourself available is if I can give you a tip during Hot Docs. Just be around, be available. In the evenings, Monday, April 30th to Friday, May 5th, there's happy hour Monday, April 30th to Thursday, May 4th. I have to correct myself. There are happy hour cocktails in the tent. And this is the place to be, not just for the amazing finger food, but also just that's where everyone gathers to meet new faces, see old friends, and just kind of, as Rasha Salty mentions in the trailer, conviviality, just open communication. And there's, of course, parties, events, receptions during the whole course of the festival. So if you have a conference and networking pass, for example, you can get into our opening night party as well as an all access pass. So just have a peek at our website. Everything that the passes lists, everything that the passes allows you to have is listed on our website. There we go. The slide says meet people, but who are these people that you are meeting? So they're not just potential business partners. These are potential collaborators as well. Tons of creatives in the audience, including musicians, other filmmakers. And as Madeline mentioned, like earlier when you're giving tips and tricks, don't just think of this as like an immediate, what can you do for me now? What can you do for my film now? Think of these as long-term connections, long-term relationships that you're building. Oh, ticketing. Okay, so the secret to working on your next project. The secret is seeing films. I'm not kidding. Know what's out there, know what's going on with the documentary landscape, know what's competitive in the international marketplace. How do you accomplish all those things? You go see films. This is knowledge that we can't pass down to you at a presentation. It's knowledge that we can't pass down to you in a PDF. It's knowledge that we can't pass down through the conference. This is knowledge that you can only do by going and seeing films. So to do that, you need a ticket. If you have an industry pass, you can pull one ticket to each non-concurrent regular screening. So what does that mean? That means that if you pull a ticket to see a film at the Bader that starts at 3 p.m., you can't pull a ticket to see a film at the Bloor that starts at 3:30 p.m. No double dipping. But you can pull your ticket on the day of the screening at the participating theater. So if it's, your film is on Monday at 3 p.m. at the Bader, go to the Bader and you can pull a ticket with your pass. You need your pass to do so, so don't forget it at home. Do not panic if your film if the film you want to see rather has gone rush. So if you arrive more than 15 minutes before the start of your screening, there are very good chances that you'll get a seat. So don't despair. Show up with an umbrella if it's raining, proper winter gear, and talk to people in line. They're there to see films too.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Aisha. I'm one of the 3 Canadian programmers at the festival. How many of you submitted a film this year? Great. So we're still in the middle of programming. And one of the wonderful things about our festival is that we actually shape our program primarily out of blind submissions. So your chances, if you don't know anyone at the festival, are as good as if you know someone at the festival. What I wanted to do today is actually give you a sort of talk about 2 things. One is the program, the different sections that we have, and then secondly, give you some tips on how to work the festival. So we get over 3,000 submissions at Hot Docs, and out of those 3,000, about 450 are Canadian. And our final program, as Madeline said, usually features just over 200 films, and 25% of that is Canadian, which is a pretty awesome percentage for Canadian filmmakers. But that 25% is shorts, mediums, and feature-length films. And if you are looking to sort of organize your festival viewing schedule, you'll notice that we divide our schedule into different sections. So if you go on the website, or if you look at the catalog, if you buy one, you'll see that we have sections like the Canadian Spectrum. That's where you find all of the Canadian feature films. We also have themed programs. Last year, we had a themed program called Silence Breakers, where we had a lot of films by female filmmakers about things associated with the Me Too movement or the Time's Up movement. And this year, we haven't announced our themes yet, but we're doing another 2 or 3 themed programs. We also have a Redux section where you can see some old documentaries that are not from this year, but from previous years, or from like even 50 years ago, that really deserve another go at the big screen. We have filmmaker highlights. We have 2 filmmakers that we are highlighting this year. The Canadian one will be Yulia Ivanova, who's from BC, so you can see a good selection of her feature films, and that'll be pretty amazing. We do a country spotlight. Last year, our country spotlight was Mexico. I don't know if we've announced this year, have we? Okay, good. No? Yes? No? Okay, I won't say it. But it's going to be exciting. You get to see a whole number of films from the same country, so you can check out what's happening in the cinematic landscape of one chosen country. If you're interested in the future of documentary, I say check out DocX. That's where you see all the virtual reality and interactive stuff, and that should be pretty amazing. If you are a filmmaker, and I'm assuming that I'm speaking to mainly emerging filmmakers, treat this festival like a job. So if you're coming to the festival, I have some tips for you on how to work the festival. So I'll give you 5 tips that I think would really sort of make you treat this like a career that you're embarking on or that you are in the middle of. One of my first tips is get a business card. This is a festival of people swapping cards. You swap cards at cocktails, you swap cards when you meet somebody, you swap cards at the delegates lounge. You can get cards pretty easily made. So if you can, spend $10, $15, get 50 cards, it'll do wonders. My second tip is if you are making a film or you've just finished making a film, get a postcard with a nice image from your film, and on the back put a link to your trailer, and you can give that out to people when you meet them. So that's really a useful way to sort of have something concrete to give to someone to remember to check out your film. My third tip is know your pitch. So we just talked about this 1-hour video. Make sure that you watch it and be able to speak about your film in a really succinct way. So if someone asks you, what are you working on? You don't want to keep going on and on. You want to be able to really tell people the heart of your story, and perhaps why you are making this film. I also say my fourth tip is watch films. If you're in this career, it's probably because you love cinema. If you're going to the festival this year, go see films on the subject of the film that you're working on. Check out what other people are doing on that same subject matter so you're able to place yourself in that sort of landscape. I would also say that it's important to see how films play with audiences. And if you see the films that we program, you'll know what kind of films that we'll look for, what kind of quality they might be, what kinds of the variety of subject matters we're interested in. And my fifth tip is don't leave before the Q&A. The Q&As are amazing. It's like free film school for you. You hear about people's processes, you hear about the methods, you hear about the subjects and how they found them. I mean, I conduct some of the Q&As and I find myself always going, oh yes, I didn't know that before. I'm like learning something about various aspects of filmmaking. So those would be my tips, but I did want to say that we as programmers, our job is to know you. So if you're coming to the festival and you see one of us around, there's about 8 of us on the international team and 3 of us on the Canadian team. Come by and say hello. We do want to know you. We do want to know what you work on. So if you want to tell us your elevator pitch, I'll listen. And I also want to hear what you've been seeing at the festival. If you want recommendations, programmers love nothing more than giving you our opinion. So if you ask me what I've seen and what I like, I'll tell you. So please do say hello if you're at the festival. And I would say in closing that it is an incredible, incredible thing that we have a festival of the caliber of hot dogs and the size of hot dogs in Toronto. So I hope that you really take advantage of it. Thanks.
We have some minutes for questions. So if anyone has a burning question, please raise your hand. And if you're brave enough to raise your hand, you will get a handy dandy Guide to Decision Makers from 2018. So you can start your research early. And you have got your hand up. Go for it.
Sure, we can talk more about it. I mean, do you have a specific question about it? We can also have cake and talk about it as well. But if you have a specific question, I mean, there may be some people in the audience have that same question. Yeah, right. So the question is, what level of experience do you need in order to apply for a Jock Accelerator, whether it's a first-time filmmaker or some experience under your belt? Our colleague Stephanie MacArthur runs this program, so I'll relay my understanding from her, and Elizabeth can clarify as well. But we're looking for really passionate filmmakers and who ideally have some experience under their belt, but not necessarily a lot, because otherwise you don't necessarily need to participate in the program. But so what we're talking about is maybe you've worked on a production as like a production coordinator, and maybe you've produced something short on your own. But in order to participate in this program, we need to know that you're going to be able to take full advantage of it. So you already know a little bit about the doc world. You know what hot dogs is all about. You know about our forum, but maybe you've never attended. So, and we're looking for the passion in the filmmaker as well.
Sometimes people always ask, like, do I have to have attended film school to do Accelerator? Like, no. There's certainly, you don't have to have attended film school, but you need to have some film experience. It could be in fiction, and you're ready to come over to the doc side. And that's a really amazing part of what the Accelerator program can be. You can be a first-time filmmaker for sure, but having some sort of experience, if it's been self-generated, that's fine. I mean, right now your phone is like more powerful than it's ever happened to make a film. You can shoot and edit it right there. That we just need to see that experience, whether it be personally dread or institutionally driven or however professionally through working in other capacities, can be articulated in your application. Totally, yeah, just so the people at home can hear you, we're being live broadcast. Yeah, like you were saying, your experiences in fiction or on YouTube, that's totally great. It's just, rather than someone who's never done any work in film at all whatsoever, never done anything self-generated whatsoever, that would be a little bit of a harder step to take. You get a buyer's guide. I'm throwing it out there, right? You asked a question. This has $1,000 value, this prize for asking a question.
All right, we have some hands up. I think I saw someone over here. Let's do you. Okay, yes. You with your hand still up, with the orange scarf. Yeah, that's you. Absolutely. You are absolutely eligible to apply next year. I think it's up to 3. It's up to 3 professional credits is what we say. But give us a call as well if you have a special scenario, so we can answer more specifically to your scenario. Okay, let's go over to this side of the room. You. with the earrings. I love it. So the question is, when do you find out about who gets, acceptance? And I believe it's still ongoing. I think it would be it's in 3 weeks. In 3 weeks. So sit tight. We're going to get back to you. All right. Yeah. We lied. It's 4. Sorry. Okay.
Time for one more. The gentleman in the blue. Yeah. Usually, we recommend that the filmmaker and the producer pitch at the table. And then the producer can speak to any of the business legality side of things, but it can also speak to the creative process depending on like how much of a creative producer the producer is. But we typically would have the director and producer attend. Yeah. And then you can bring in a lawyer at a later point when it's opened up to a follow-up conversation. Great. Okay. We should have cake, but first we're going to talk to Liz Marshall. So we're going to do a 2-minute turnaround. We're going to get some chairs on stage, sit tight, and we'll be right back. This is for you. Okay, great. Welcome back. So I thought it would be a great idea to talk to Liz Marshall. She's a local filmmaker. She's definitely part of the doc community here. I feel like you know everyone knows you. You have a very familial relationship with hot docs. I think at this point, as someone had mentioned, Liz has been the Doc Accelerator lab facilitator with us since 2016. She also had her film The Ghosts in Our Machine programmed in the festival in 2013. And last year at the forum, she pitched her next feature film called Meet the Future. So I was wondering if you could start, we'll kind of work backwards, but if you could start by telling us what it was like to launch a film like The Ghosts in Our Machine at a festival like this almost 6 years ago, and kind of how you've gotten to this point.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. Great to be here. This is my favorite cinema in Toronto, and Hot Docs is definitely the flagship gathering place for documentary filmmakers. It's an amazing fostering of culture and film. So having The Ghosts in Our Machine premiere actually in this theater 6 years ago, hard to believe that it was 6 years ago, was thrilling. It was absolutely thrilling. How do I explain the feeling? It was sold out like 4 weeks in advance or something crazy. And you know, it was a real labor of love. Like feature-length documentaries are always, you know, you invest, it's all consuming, it's fully immersive. You invest so much of your time and the team working with you, you know, it's a really big process to make a feature-length documentary. And so to have a great platform to launch it is an honor. and then no, to engage in a really in-depth Q&A afterwards to a packed audience of peers, but also you're reaching beyond your peer network, and you're reaching beyond certainly the people that might be, stakeholders on some level in maybe the social issue that your film is connected with. So in that way, you're really presenting your film to the world. And then it has other screenings at the festival as well. Yeah, it's a really great experience. I highly recommend that you aim to have, whether it's a short or mid-length is also allowed, mid-length or feature documentary at Hot Docs. It's great for you as a filmmaker.
And since then, you've worked on a number of other projects, but you pitched the forum last year with a project called Meet the Future. You're in development currently?
No, we're in the
Production?
latter stage of
Okay.
production, and we just started post.
Okay. Can you tell us about what that project is?
Uh-oh. Do I have to do the elevator pitch?
To do the elevator pitch.
Oh no. Okay. Let's see. Okay, well, let me
Okay.
begin. Let me begin by talking. Does everyone know what the forum is? Raise your hand if you know what the forum is.
We explained a little bit about what it was in the presentation and what it looked like and what the format is.
Okay. Well, okay. So Meet the Future, it's a film that I've been making for 3 years. So I've been following, it's character driven. I've been following the subject matter through the characters in the States, spanning 3 years, which is really a gift and a challenge for a filmmaker. But it explores the advent of real meat without animal slaughter. And it does so through the pioneers who are driving this potential new game-changing industry. And so the film last year was chosen one of 19 projects from around the globe. And how many were considered?
Applied. Last year was around 250.
Wow, so highly competitive, and so a real honor to have that opportunity to pitch at the forum. And you explained the format that as the director, I'm also the producer, but I have executive producers on the team. So I had an executive producer and myself and the broadcaster, which is documentary channel, CBC, sitting together. And we had rehearsed for a good 3 weeks, with us, revising and honing the script. Because you have a certain limited amount of time that you're pitching, and you're pitching at a table. You might have seen the images. It looks very intimidating, and it is intimidating. But it's a great opportunity on so many levels. But essentially, the format is that you're sitting at the head of this large table at Hart House, and all the sort of buyers from around the world, broadcasters and funders, are sitting at that table. And so, there's glaring lights, and then there's, bleachers around the room and lots of seating for the international community, but also your peers, fellow filmmakers from around the globe that have come to observe or who are also engaged in the pitch for their film. Do you want to, what else should I say about it?
Well, maybe we can talk a little bit about what it's like to be in that kind of setting, and because there is a lot of preparation that goes into the part of the pitch where you are speaking for 7 minutes, and then there's the 8 minutes of feedback that come from the buyers. And within that 8 minutes of feedback, you don't really know what you're going to get: questions, criticisms, people ask for clarification. There might be confusion about something that you thought was quite clear. So how do you, in real time, how do you kind of handle those situations?
So I think it depends on the kind of person you are. For me personally, I like Q&As. I like being challenged with hard, tough questions. I see that as a very necessary part of the process in testing ideas, in challenging myself to do better research, to be a better communicator, to know my film on a deeper level, and know how to translate that for others. The hardest part for me was the actual pitch, because, you know, like I said, we did have a script and we rehearsed that script, but you want to be as natural and real as possible, but you still need to convey within 7 minutes all the various points. And so I found that part a bit more nerve-wracking than the actual Q&A that came afterwards. I know that most of the films that I make are somewhat controversial in some way. And so, or let's say challenging subject matter. I'm used to tackling challenging subject matter. So I'm actually at home trying to answer questions about it. So
So you like the confrontation almost, or not a confrontation, but to be challenged.
I do, yeah.
And can you explain the difference between, or how it's different for you to pitch in a room like at the forum versus one-to-one? So that's a completely different experience. You're moving from one meeting to the other. They're more intimate. You're speaking with one or two people. You get all of their feedback. You have a discussion. You get up and you go into the next one, and you could have 10 in a row. What is that like?
So the one-on-one pitch opportunity is you're meeting again with potential buyers, funders, who have also expressed interest in meeting with you. So you're with your team and you have a certain set period of time. What is it again? It's
20 minutes.
20 minutes.
Yeah. And all the people that were around the table and a lot of the people who were in the audience at the forum will just move into a different setting, and then they'll take their meetings in a different setting. But it's all the same people that you saw in the forum room.
Again, I like the opportunity to do that because it allows you to, again, you need to be prepared for these things. So you need, with your team, to, you know, work on what are the points that you're hitting on. If they have business questions, who's answering the business questions? It's better coming from someone not the director. It's better to have, you know, in my case, an executive producer there to talk about the business aspect. And so that my role is to talk about the story and the characters and the access and the status of the project. You know, how, you know, there's a whole range of questions that these potential buyers will have. Some you can tell almost immediately whether they're really engaged with you or whether they're maybe not so interested. You can kind of feel it. You can also help them to become more interested, and that's actually the purpose of these one-on-ones, is to really engage their interest so that their relationships that you continue to foster, especially, for example, I met with CNN and they expressed a lot of interest at the time, and that was exciting, but also met with broadcasters from around the world and with some other types of funders.
And how do you decide going in? Obviously, it's great if you get the attention from the broadcasters and they all want to meet you, but if you're starting off and you kind of get the initial, you initially get to decide who you want to meet with, who you would potentially like to meet with ideally, if you could have all of the requested meetings that you want. How do you do that kind of research or that kind of preparation before the festival?
Yeah, so I would say, you know, when you're chosen to be part of the forum and when you're part of Rendezvous, that's what it is, right? Dealmaker. Hot Docs is there to also, they're amazing as a support, and they kind of hold your hand in a way providing you with links and literature and things that you need to do your research around, to know who's who that you're meeting with, and they help set up those meetings and facilitate that. So just do your research. Who are the people that you're meeting with? For me, there were a lot of people that or networks that I was already familiar with, but then there were also new contacts and potential interests. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and
Okay.
yeah, and there's also always new different film funds coming from different places that weren't around a year ago or that popped up for the first time at Hot Docs. So even if you really understand the landscape and you know who all of the broadcasters are, there's always different players kind of emerging at different, especially in terms of online platforms, kind of trying to challenge Netflix and see if they can get into the documentary game. So it's also important to keep on top of what those guys are doing. I want to talk about the importance of networking the soft pitch as opposed to the hard pitch, and the importance of being able to talk about your film in any setting, whether you're at a cocktail or at a dinner or you're at Hot Docs, but you're not officially pitching. How do you do that?
So one of the questions that always comes up in the lab, that I am the lab facilitator of, the Emerging Filmmaker Lab, is just how hard or just how soft should people be pitching their ideas at these various functions that the Hot Docs Festival provides. There's various cocktails and places that you can attend and things that you can go to where it's just swarming with potential funders and buyers and other filmmakers. And we always sort of say that we talk about the soft pitch as opposed to the hard pitch, although the hard pitch is also very appropriate at times. But it's important to, for example, let's imagine that you're at one of the cocktails that happens at the end of the day. And you see someone that you've seen around, you saw them speak on a panel, you think that that's the perfect person for you to talk to about your film. You just have an instinct about it. And so you really, it's your goal to connect with that person. I would say absolutely follow that instinct. Line up afterwards and try to, after their panel or during the cocktail, try to find them. But I think the idea of a soft pitch is that you are briefly, succinctly introducing yourself and at the same time talking in brief terms about your project. So again, that takes rehearsing to practice what that sounds like and how that might land for someone in that environment who is being kind of hunted by lots of different filmmakers the whole time. But they're also there at Hot Docs to meet filmmakers. So it's a matter of being intuitive about that, but also having your business card, having your postcard about your film. If you have those two tools, that's very important. But get their business card. Make sure you get their business card. Make direct eye contact, shake their hand, introduce yourself. And if it's someone that you really feel strongly about connecting with in a deeper way around your project, you can follow up. And that's a good technique.
And especially in Toronto, if the Canadian broadcasters here are usually based in Toronto, they're local, they're more than happy to have a meeting with you outside of Hot Docs. It's great to connect with filmmakers who are from here, but also filmmakers who are international. And you can create a community here of collaborators from people that you met at Hot Docs. You had no idea you were all locals, but then you realize. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I completely drifted away from the mic. I want to ask you a little bit about post-festival follow-up and what you do to follow up with broadcasters that were interested in hearing more after the festival.
Sure. When you have a film in the festival or when you're part of the forum?
When you're part of the forum.
Okay.
When you're pitching and you want to connect with them later.
Yeah. Okay. So if you understood that, what I meant was like, because there's two different ways that you follow up, right? When I had my film, The Ghosts in Our Machine here, there was all kinds of follow-up based on the film is done. It's ready to go. I want you to see it. As opposed to this film is being made and we need to complete our financing and we're interested in preliminary discussions around distribution. So last year at the forum, Meet the Future was technically still in development, although I'd been shooting for a good year and a half already. I was still technically in development, entering principal photography and looking for the financing. We're still trying to, complete our financing. So the kind of conversations and connections that we were engaged with were varied. It was too early to get into commitments with distributors. For me personally, unless it's a major buyer that's going to give a big advance and complete your financing and can guarantee a really powerful platform for the film, it's too early to get into deals at that stage of a project. Whereas now at Hot Docs, we will be very interested in engaging in discussions around potential deals with distributors and agents. So it's about timing. So last year we were very interested in completing our financing, and we followed up with the Redford Center, who was also sitting around the table during my pitch, and I got the fund through the Redford Center and was chosen as one of 7 feature-length documentaries as part of a story cohort, and it's been wonderful. It's been a real highlight, and that directly came out of the forum. And so just to kind of not brag, but kind of just say, the forum really helped facilitate that, because I ended up going to the story cohort gathering at the Sundance Mountain Resort in October. And it's just been very stimulating to be part of that network and to have the support of the Redford Center.
That's okay, Liz, you can brag. That's good.
You have to kind of, you got to do that, but at the same time, just.
Documentary filmmakers are so humble, for the most part. Canadians. Canadians. Yeah. Lastly, and very briefly, do you have any general advice for young filmmakers, emerging filmmakers that are navigating Hot Docs or any market or any festival for the first time? Like, how can you kind of guide them through this as a guardian angel?
I mean, I think all the incredible women that were up here gave you amazing tips and tools and wonderful insight into this festival. I would just stress that aside from watching as many films as possible at the festival, just make that part of your practice, that you watch documentaries, because you're watching documentaries, you're studying, it's always research and development, always, because as filmmakers, we have one project that might be more of a focus currently, but we've got other projects that are in early development or late development, or we have, for me, for example, I have a current documentary called Midian Farm. It's playing here, I'm plugging it, on March 20th. I hope you can come, one night only with Q&A. So you'll have projects that are across the spectrum at different stages of development to production to distribution and release. So it's very important to go to festivals, network, watch films. And watching films, back to why I said watch films, is because you're studying those films on every level. You're studying the language of filmmaking. How did the director work with structure? How did the director work with time? Is it character driven? Is it social issue? What are some of the methodologies or approaches? And I love watching films from that vantage point. So then there's also the business side. Always watch the credits. Always watch the opening title sequence and the credits to see who's behind this film, who's supporting this film, things like that. So just be a good observer, researcher around the genre, and which is a genre that's always expanding and growing. And Hot Docs is a really good example of just how much this genre of ours has exploded in recent years. Like, what are some of the box office numbers?
I don't know box office numbers.
Oh yeah,
they're big. The cinema's doing amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was a number. It's just a woot woot. Well, okay, great. Thank you so much for your input. And can we please have a round of applause for Liz Marshall? As I promised earlier, we're going to have tea and cake in the lobby. So please join us out there now. They're going to kick us out at 4 because they have to do some turnover for the event at 4:30. But the event at 4:30 is The Last Resort. It's a film about a retirement community in Miami Beach in the 1970s, which sounds amazing. You're all welcome to stay and watch the film. And if you RSVP'd on the Eventbrite page, I have your name and you can come into the film. And if you have an RSVP, just come up to me and I'll add your name to the list. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us, and please join us in the lobby.
Did we hit all the right?
I think we hit all the cues, yeah.